Today we're going to do lesson 9.7, where we are going to multiply and divide scientific notation. You can also add and subtract it, but believe it or not, that's even harder. You will get that next year in algebra. So we are going to start by multiplying 3 times 2 2/10 times 10 to the power of 4. So 3 times our scientific notation. We are going to start by just multiplying the numbers, not the power of 10. We're going to ignore that for right now. So we're going to do 3 times 2 2/10, which gives us 6 6/10. And by all means, you can use a calculator. And then we're just going to add the power at the end. And when we're done, we have scientific notation. 6 6/10 is a number between 1 and 10 times 10 to the power of 4. We have our answer. However, they're not always this easy. Again, 6 times 3.1, 3 1/10 times 10 to the power of 7. We're going to start with this multiplication, 6 times 3 1/10, which gives us 18 6/10. We just add our power of 10 on the end. We're not done though, because this number is not between 1 and 10. It is a bigger number. It's bigger than 10, so we are going to add how many times we move the decimal point. We need to move it 1 time, so we're going to add 1. So instead of 18 6/10, we have 1 86/100 times 10 to the power of 7 plus 1 is 8. And there is our scientific notation. Let's do scientific notation times another scientific notation. We're going to start by multiplying the first numbers. 1 7/10 times 4 3/10. So when we do that, and again, use a calculator, we get 7 31/100. Then we're going to deal with our powers of 10. We are multiplying them. Remember our first 5 exponent rules? When you multiply powers, you add the exponents. So we're going to take 2 plus 4, which gives us 6. So we multiply by power of 10 to the 6th power. And there is our scientific notation. We have a number between 1 and 10 times 10 to the power of 6. Let's get a little bit harder. So we are going to start multiplying 3 and 5. Excuse me, should be fairly easy. 3 times 5 is 15. Now we're going to do our exponents, even with negative exponents, because we're multiplying powers. We're going to add the exponents. So we're going to do -5 plus a -2, which gives us a -7. So it's times 10 to the power of -7. This is not our answer, however, because this number is not between 1 and 10. It's a bigger number than 10, so we're going to add on to our exponent. We're going to move our decimal back 1, so we have 1 5/10 times 10 to the power. We moved it 1 time. -7 plus 1 gives us a -6. So there is our answer. 1 5/10 times 10 to the power of -6. Let's try division. It works pretty much the same way. We're going to start with our numbers, only now we are going to divide. And again, use a calculator. 1 5/10 divided by 6 gives us 25/100. So we're going to leave it that way for right now. Then we're going to do our powers. Now, remember, when we are dividing powers, we're subtracting our exponents. So we're going to do -8 minus 7. going to double dash here. That gives me a negative 15. So multiply by 10 to the power of negative 15. This is not scientific notation, however, because 25 hundredths is lower than 1. So because it's lower, we're going to have to move the decimal the other way, so we're going to subtract it. It's a smaller decimal or smaller number, so we're going to subtract it. We moved it one time, so we're going to subtract it by 1. So our number, 2 5/10, times 10 to the power of negative 15 plus a negative 1 is a negative 16. There is our answer. Let's try it again. It's written in a little bit different way, but it's still the same thing. We are going to start with our numbers. So we're going to do 1 5/10 divided by 7 5/10, which gives us 2/10. Use a calculator. Now we're going to do our powers of 10. So again, we're dividing powers. So we are going to subtract our exponents. We have negative 3 minus 2. I'm going to double dash so I get a negative 5. So times 10 to the power of negative 5. Not our answer, because again, we don't have a number between 1 and 10. It's a smaller number, so we're going to subtract. We move it one time, so we're going to subtract 1. So we have 2 times 10 to the power of negative 6. And that is our answer. Take a moment, pause the video, and try these two on your own first. Okay, let's start with the multiplication. 5 times 5 4/10. If I multiply that, I get 27 times 10 to the power, let's see, negative 4 plus a negative 9 gives me a negative 13. This is a bigger number, so I'm going to add, and I only need to add 1 because I only moved it 1. 2 7/10 times 10 to the power of negative 12. And that would be our answer. Let's do the division. 5 8/10 divided by 2. That gives me 2 9/10. Now the exponents, I'm dividing, so I subtract. Negative 6 minus a negative 3. I'm going to double dash. That gives me negative 3. Multiply by 10 to the power of negative 3. This is between 1 and 10, so there's my answer. Your homework for this section is, again, to go to IXL.com, and you're going to do 2 skills. One, they separate them, one by multiplication and one for division. The multiplication one is Y, Z, U, yellow, zebra, up, to the best of my ability there. And the division one is all letters, S as in Sam, G as in goat, and T as in table. Again, work until you are 80% proficient.